Now to the U.S., where judges are being forced into an unprecedented and perilous spot, and that's in the middle of a presidential campaign because of rising debates over the criminal trials of Donald Trump. But this comes as prosecutors pushing for speedy trials, and the ex-president's defense teams attempt to delay his days in court until after the November 2024 election, are setting up a series of critical decisions for jurists in highly politicized cases. An alleged threat to a federal judge showed how hazardous the collision of the judiciary and campaign politics could become in a unique election season, likely to feature multiple trials of the front-running GOP candidate. Recall that former President Trump and 18 of his allies were indicted on Monday for running a criminal enterprise to try to thwart the will of the American people and keep Mr. Trump in power at all costs. Well, I have joining me Global Affairs Analyst Ejike Okpa. He joins me to speak on the situation in the United States amidst the ongoing presidential campaign. Thank you for joining us on The World Now. There appears to be a collision between the judiciary and, amidst the campaign politics. How exactly is this playing out in the United States?
Well, thank you for having me. It's not looking good for America for us to be witnessing what is going on. I never knew that in my how many years living in this country that I'm going to see the Department of Justice be part of a political group to go against a candidate for things other people have done, but they got away with it. So Americans are thinking through this, and they're looking forward to the opportunity, because the Constitution didn't say a felon cannot run for office. So if Trump emerges as the nominee for the Republican Party, he's gonna be on the ballot, and the Americans are gonna vote. But the thing about this judicial process is that, you take him to court, and then he has the right to appeal, and he's not gonna go to jail until the appeal is resolved. And then if the appeal process doesn't favor him, he goes to the Supreme Court. So this is just an undue distraction, by the other side. To weaken him or make him look bad. But like I have said, it's backfiring, because each time they indict him, his numbers goes up as the leading candidate. So we'll see. Just for your disclosure, I supported him in 2016. I voted for him the last time, and I'm going to vote for him again, because one thing I don't like is people being picked upon because of their political views. Fine, you've charged him, I indicted him for criminal things. Let the court decide it, because again, it's going to be a field day. Lawyers on both sides are just going to be throwing at each other, and the judge is going to come with a ruling. But the haste, to get this thing to trial is what I haven't seen. I have sued a company in America, and I know how long it took. I sued them in a local court. They took me to the federal court, and then they back and forth. And finally, when we got to a judge, he referred it back to us for mediation. So the American judicial system is not as swift or as quick as most people think, because there are motions to be filed, there are things to be disputed, and then it goes back and forth. So we'll see what happens.
And Mr. Okpa, I was actually coming there because you have mentioned that you're of the opinion that this is distraction from the other side to weaken Mr. Trump. But then quite a number of people and nations have looked up to America as the pride, and that they can be trusted, and that you can achieve speedy dispensation of justice, which don't you think is just what the other side, the prosecutors are trying to achieve at this time?
Well, all of that is neither here or there. Again, I'm lucky to have, come to this country after college in Nigeria. And I can tell you, America is not what people read from outside. It's a very corrupt government. But the thing is, their corruption at least has enabled them to still do what they do, and do it either for or against. But if you get deeper, into this country, it's a corrupt government. The politicians are corrupt. The system is corrupt. It depends on who is being put up, out there by the media.
This corruption thing you're talking about, Mr. Okpa, if I may come in, would you say same under the administration of Donald Trump?
You mean about what? About corruption?
You're talking about the fact that this administration is corrupt. A lot of corruption is going on. Is that same thing you would
No,
say
no,
about when Donald Trump was in office for 4 whole years?
I wasn't talking about Trump particularly. I said from the time I've been in this country and the books I have read, American government, American mode of doing things have always has elements of corruption.
Okay.
So but the point is, that corruption hasn't stopped people from wanting to come or here in America saying they're #1 country in the world. So, the point I'm saying is that it is very shocking where you think the judiciary should be independent, regardless of who is. If you commit a crime, we're going to go after you. But in this particular case, there are evidence and there are people out there, thinking that this is just a prosecution, not as opposed to prosecution.
But what makes you think the judiciary at this time is corrupt, that it's not independent?
Well, I mean, look, if you look at when Trump ran against Hillary and Hillary, didn't make it. Hillary went out there, got a petition up to 4 million of it. There were destruction in part of America, and she said, this is this is not a legitimate election. This is not a legitimate president. I mean, and then you go to state of Georgia, Stacey Adams, she has not accepted the fact that the guy who is the governor now has won. So the Democrats do these things and they get away with it because they have been embedded with the judicial system, and then the media is very sympathetic to them. Anytime you listen to CNN or ABC, NBC, and CBS, it's always about what the Democrats have done. They are no longer balanced, and then, the corruption is beginning to show how wicked the system is because the media is supposed to be an independent. Report the facts and don't give us the opinions. American media is laden with opinions, and that opinions come by people who say they are experts. I mean, look, I live here. I ran for mayor. I ran for Congress. I can tell you what happened even when I was a candidate. When they didn't want me to run. And I sued the city of Dallas and I won. What if I was somebody who didn't have the means and the will to do it? I wouldn't have. But you see, so here is the way they take you. The unfortunate thing is that they've taken on Trump. And Trump is a gentleman who behaves like a freshly poured concrete. He gets stronger. Trump is the only American who can withstand what the Democrats are doing. And I'm glad that he can do that.
But Mr. Okpa, it's not everyone who would agree with this point of view. And I would very quickly like you to speak on the threat on Wednesday night by a woman on a federal judge, and that's Judge Tanya Chutkan. A voicemail was sent to her, and she was being threatened to be killed. How do we react to that threat of death, of murder, of assassination on a judge who was sitting on a case that is not only of concern to America, but to the world?
Again, I'm telling you, I live in it. Americans can do things that, if the world were to know it, they will have to start getting their own house in order because America is not a model. America is not the example that a lot of the world is. It's not a perfect nation, but it's a nation that gets some certain things, right? But there are certain things they do that makes you shake your head. They protect democracy, they protect freedom, but in this country, you're not free. There are certain things you can say that you go to jail. So the judges, again, people, it's a human thing. Remember, at the end of the day, countries are made up of human beings, and human beings have these emotions and reactions. And they're going to, think certain things is just being done against the people they support or the people that, they don't like, and it's an unfair thing. So yeah, judges get that all the time. Judges, but in fact, we have the lowest level of judges here. They are not judicial judges. They are called justice of the peace. You don't have to have a law degree to do that. They get threatened all the time. They're the ones that handle the lowest level of civil matters. But what I'm saying is that the time we have now in America is unprecedented. I'm not saying Trump is an angel. There are no angels in politics. It's all about angles. You just happen to be on the wrong side of the angle. And then again, we watch it because a president is going to be set. Is an American former president going to go to prison because of what? When there's this strong allegation about Biden and his son, having taken money, allegation about what American administration needed to have Buhari elected, and John Kerry was there. I mean, there are a lot of things that most people don't see because, again, when you're out there and you're dealing with their daily survival needs, you're not going to pay attention on global affairs. But I live here, and I'm always grateful for my father for saying, don't go to America, go to America after college education, because it's giving me the opportunity to invest in the system, understand the system, and participate in the system. It is when you participate in the American system that you can see how deep they are in some of the things they do.
All right, Mr.
Good or bad or indifferent, the world is made up of human beings. But again, I want to see this thing play out. It's in the hands of the courts now.
All right.
We'll see what happens.
It's in the courts, and it's left for the courts to decide on these matters. Global Affairs Analyst, Ejike Okwa, thank you for talking to us on The World Now.
Well, thank you for having me.